perhaps even more disturbing tonight, a report out of Indiana. You may have seen this on The Factor. Wait until you hear where we're taking the story. The report suggests that demons took over a family and their home. And Trace Gallagher has the details. Trace?
And Megan, the comparisons to Amityville are notable because it was just days after the Ammon family moved into their house. They say the horror began, the black flies swarming, children being levitated, shadowy figures pacing the house. Here's the mother. Listen.
And I saw one like coming into full image. It was coming out of my closet. I've never seen it like that before. I would see the shadows, you know, but I've never seen it like how I'm looking at you and you're looking at me.
The family sought help, but between the horror stories, the kids missing school, and being injured, the family doctor and child services got involved, with child services pointing the finger at mom, writing, quote, they believe the mother may have mental health concerns. They believe the children are performing for the mother and that she's encouraging the behavior. Then child services witnessed something that changed their view. The 9-year-old boy thrown against the wall with no one touching him. Then they write, quote, he had a weird grin on his face and began to walk backwards while the grandmother was holding his hand. He walked up the wall backwards. He flipped over and landed on his feet in front of the grandmother and sat down in the chair. Police also thought the story was a hoax until they went to the house and saw blinds dripping with oil and water where there was no source, and a mysterious figure in a window when no one was home. 37-year police veteran Captain Charles Austin saying, quote, every one of us who was there that day in the basement and who saw what we saw, we all think the same. We call it the same. That bit of dirt is a portal to hell. The family called a local priest, Father Michael Maginot, who was convinced demons had possessed the mother. He tried to contact the demons through 3 exorcisms. Here's the priest.
It was pretty much without incident until we get to the part of your name, and you ask for its name. Now, so far, she's always been silent. So, and I says, is your name whatever? And then all of a sudden, she started convulsing and such. So now, once you have a name, you kind of attack it.
And after she convulsed, he believes the exorcism in the end was successful. Megan.
Trace, thank you. Joining us now, the reporter with the Indianapolis Star who wrote the initial story and conducted more than a dozen interviews on it. Marissa Kwiatkowski is with me now. Marissa, good to see you. Let me start with this. After all the interviews you did of independent third-party witnesses and so on, do you believe the story?
It's not my job to believe or disbelieve this story. I will leave that to others.
It's not your job, but what do you think? I'm asking you. I mean, were you persuaded at all?
It's not my job to be persuaded either way. My job is to report the facts as they were told to me and to let people draw their own conclusions, and I wrote it that way deliberately.
Well, let me ask you this. You've got a police captain saying he believes. Did you interview the people who claim to have seen the boy walking backwards up the wall?
I interviewed the registered nurse who witnessed or says he witnessed the boy walking backward up the wall. I did not interview the Department of Child Services caseworker. However, I had her report from that incident.
And did she claim to see it as well?
She claimed to see it as well, yes.
Do you have any reason to doubt their accounts? I mean, as a reporter, you always go in skeptical.
I think they believe it, yes.
Is there any reason that you uncovered to doubt them? In other words, any history of their relationship with the truth, any performance complaints, that kind of thing?
Good question. No, there weren't any sorts of situations that gave me pause. People in credible positions doing typical work and, nothing to report. How
many eyewitnesses were there to the so-called possessed behavior other than the mother? Because, the mother may or may not have had issues. There was a psychologist saying she's got some issues and the kids are basically performing for her. How many people outside of the family who are verifying these accounts?
You mean in the hospital or outside of the hospital?
Anybody outside of the family.
It would take me a bit of time to count, but at least 5 or 6 people who say they witnessed things that were strange.
Is there any audio or visual?
There are not audio or visual representations of the boy walking up the wall or the levitation. There are photos of things that police saw while they were in the home, but nothing, you know, no demons or paranormal or anything like that.
All right, we'll continue to follow it. Thanks for bringing it to our attention, Marissa. All the best.
Factor follow-up segment tonight. Last night, we told you about a 9-year-old Indiana boy who apparently was doing some very shocking things, so much so that exorcism was involved. The Indianapolis Star, that state's biggest newspaper, is heavily covering the story, and a captain in the Gary, Indiana police force, Charles Austin, says the situation is credible. That is incredible. Joining us now from Chicago, Father Michael Maginot, a Catholic priest who has been dealing with the situation. So, Father, I want to keep this fact-based, what you know, what you saw, what you did. Let's start with the boy. What do you know about him?
Actually, I have never met any of the children. The first time I heard about the incident was when, just after the boy walked up the wall backwards. There was a furor there, people running out, calling for the police, security, the chaplain. He called me. I was in my parish conducting a Bible study class, and I got the call because I was on call for the Catholic priest chaplain who was off at that time. And they called me in to do an exorcism. And I said,
but let me stop you there. Exorcism is a very rare and serious thing that the Catholic Church, and you have to go through a lot of hoops to get it approved, to get the people in. It disturbs me a little bit that the boy involved, and this is according to the newspaper and other eyewitnesses, you know, was doing incredible things like walking up walls and things like that. But you yourself never talked to the boy. Why not?
Well, when I went to do the interview at the home with the mother and the grandmother, it was a 4-hour interview, and the first 2 hours were basically just getting information of all the occurrences and phenomena that was surrounding everything leading up to that incident at the emergency room in the hospital.
The problem I'm having with this is, number one, you didn't see the boy. I think the credibility of the Catholic Church is in a tough way now in this country. Exorcism is a very serious thing, very, very serious. I understand you got permission from the bishop in your diocese to do this. But it just seems to me that the story is not solid enough to go public with it. And there are a lot of people watching right now that say this is more mumbo-jumbo from the Roman Catholic Church and no credibility here at all. How would you answer that?
Well, the 2 boys and the girl one was put into a lockdown psychological children's ward, and the other 2 were taken to the Carmelite sisters who take care of foster children. And so they were taken away from the parents and from the mother and the grandmother, and so I didn't have access to them. And I discovered in the investigation that the mother was also possessed. Mainly at the very end, I put the crucifix on her forehead and she began to convulse.
As a Catholic priest for many years, you believe that there is something unworldly involved with this family. You do believe that? All right, Father.
Yeah, I do.
I'm going to stop it there, and we appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Then was brought unto him one possessed with a devil, blind and dumb. And he healed him, insomuch that the blind and dumb both spake and saw. And all the people were amazed, and said, Is not this the son of David? But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, This fellow doth not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, the prince of the devils. And Jesus knew their thoughts, and said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? And if I by Beelzebub cast out devils, by whom do your children cast them out? Therefore they shall be your judges.
Hello, Tiger219 here, and today's video is going to be about my experience at the Gary Hell House. a group of my friends and me, we decided to drive down to Gary, Indiana, which is infamous. We had quite unexplainable, weird experience, to say the least. While we were discussing about going, I had charged my phone and had it was charged at 100%. So it didn't take us that long to get there. It was maybe not even a half-hour drive. So the first event that happened was when we got there, we had parked across the street from the house, and I looked at my phone, and my phone had actually went from 100% down to 50. Now, granted, there was no apps running on my phone. Everything was disabled, so it wasn't like there was apps pulling on my apps pulling on my battery that would drain it that quickly. You know what I mean? So we got out and we started to try to take pictures of the house of itself, and needless to say, my phone started malfunctioning. It started acting weird. It shut off once, so I had to turn it back on. My flash would not work, period, and my flash always works. The flash refused to work. I had taken over 40 pictures. Half of them did not come out. And I will show you at the end of this video the photos of that day. We walked up onto the porch. And walking up on the porch, it was completely weird. There was like this weird energy. We could not go inside the house because the house was boarded up, and they actually had cameras on the roof of the house. Zach Baggins from Ghost Hunters, or Ghost Adventures, bought the house, and he had actually did some investigations in there. And from what I heard, he had some pretty weird experiences. So, yeah, it was pretty damn weird, to say the least. Needless to say, my friend is an empath. She's dealt with the paranormal stuff before. And, she even felt weird. She's like, there's something that's pulling me in the back. She goes, I got this feeling that I need to go to the back of the house. And I was kind of getting that feeling too. But we didn't go because it was like a pool. And the weird part was, like, I tried to take videos. And I was going to try to document and video it. My phone started to fail. It completely shut off and would not come back on. On the front door, even though there's wood, we kind of knocked on it, just joking around, and believe it or not, we heard what we thought was a faint knock, which freaked everybody out. Now, my friend Eric, he's a skeptic. He does not believe in paranormal or anything like that. He was kind of weird. He was kind of weirded out. One of the photos, there's a photo of him and a friend that we went with. And if you look closely on the picture, there is a shadow that looks like it's holding a gun to his head. And when we got home, we uploaded all the photos onto my computer. And we were looking at them, and he was kind of like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, really, like, that is weird. And our thing is the way they were standing, there was no way that shadow could make it like that. That freaked everybody out. My one friend, his phone completely would not work. his phone was fully charged. He was charging in the vehicle on the way here because we were using, we had to get directions, so we were using Google Maps for directions, and his phone was on the charger in the vehicle, so it was charging while we were there. For some reason, his phone, and his phone was newer than mine, would not work, period. And they normally say when spiritual activity, they will pull energy from whatever source they can, including phones. So that's the only thing we can think of. We were there maybe about half hour, 45 minutes. Like I said, it was completely strange. My one friend started to feel sick, so eventually we started talking about we were in fear of bringing something home with us. And we pretty much decided maybe it's time we leave. Because we had went at 2:30 in the morning. So we were there, about witching hour, which is normally about 3:30, like I said, so we came home. We were going to go back. There was talks about going back with the Ouija board to see if there was anything there, still there. Me personally, I don't like Ouija boards. I refuse to have them in my house. It's not something to mess with. And I pretty much told them, count me out. I don't mess with that. There were several talks about going back. Unfortunately, we were going to go back, but when we finally decided that we were going to go back, we could not go back due to the fact that the house was torn down. Zach Bagans put out a movie about the whole experience of his whole thing. I have not seen it yet. But from what I heard, he had some pretty hairy stuff happen to him and his crew there. So, it does not surprise me, and for the fact that even that this kind of made international news. This was all over the news here. So this was a big thing, and Gary does have other haunted places in it. It's Gary is old Tom. So so it's I think for me personally, because I believe in a paranormal, and I was kind of freaked out. I mean, my thought was there was definitely something evil there. Because, like I said, we felt there was a presence there, and it was not a very friendly presence. So, so I'm thankful we went. It was a good experience. Me personally, with my experience, it's not the first time I've experienced paranormal stuff. I've been to other places that have been haunted. And like I said, this was just standing on the front porch alone, just the feeling, and so I can only imagine what it have been like if we went inside. And trust me, we want to go inside. My anxiety, I'll tell you this right now, when I was standing on that porch, was bad. I felt like, I felt unsafe. I felt like there was something malicious there. And it was not happy we were there, and it wasn't friendly. Like I said, it was not friendly. Am I going to say it's a demon? I can't say. And quite honestly, I kind of don't want to know. So, So I think with that, it was pretty freaky. There was stuff, like I said, that was unexplainable. To this day, we can't figure out why our phones shut off like that, why our phones wouldn't work properly. Never had that experience before. My phone has never acted up. So, like that. So, pretty much, you know, that was my experience at the Gary Howell house. I will leave some videos at the end of this. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and stay strong, stay lucid, and remember, love is louder. Till the next video, thank you.